was to listen to the outgoing executive or board of directors to account for the stewardship for the past year, debate on reforms from matters arising, and ultimately vote for a new executive. However, things took a 360-degree spin after the presiding officer, who happens to be the Anti-Corruption Commissioner, Francis Benken-Fala, moved the motion to move item number 8, which was elections, forward. Now, that was brought forward on the agenda in the absence of majority of supporters of Mara and Wara. They were on their way to Bo. Elections were, albeit held under a very tense atmosphere. Results were published and the new executive announced, a move which members of the Mara and Wara team again have roundly condemned as being unfair. There's also been calls by senior lawyers, past presidents of the Sierra Leone Bar Association, and even members of the African Bar Association to annul the elections, the results of the controversial AGM. This week, members on either side of the table have been making the case on traditional and social media to garner support and acceptance. Now, will these actions continue, or will members of the Bar Association accept the outcome of the August 18 SLBA debacle? What will be the post-elections actions of the Sierra Leone Bar Association? I am John Conte, and this is AYV on Sunday. Good evening, welcome back. This is AYV on Sunday. Today we shall be delving into the Bar Association post-election actions. You can follow us on DSTV channel 399, radio 101.7 FM, and our AYV News Facebook page. Sending your thoughts and comments. We'll find time to read through them later on in the program. Now, to help me unpack this discussion this evening, I have Julian Cole Esquire. He is a representative of Team Augustine Sori Sengbemara and Team Wara Seri Kamal. Welcome, Julian, to AYV on Sunday.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to be here, and very good evening to listeners and viewers.
My immediate left, Alfred Commander Esquire. He is the Public Relations Officer, in quote, elect of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. Welcome to AYV on Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Now, he needs no, amplification of what he's been doing so far, but he is a known voice and a name. He works on governance-related issues from the Institute for Governance Reforms. I have Andrew Lavali, the Executive Director of IGR, in the studio. Andrew, welcome to AYV on Sunday.
Yes, happy Sunday, viewers and listeners.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. Now, send us your comments, send us your thoughts, drop them on the AYV Sierra Leone Facebook page. Let me also announce a WhatsApp number where you can drop your comments to as well. That is +232 885 7574 to drop your comments on WhatsApp, and we will read through them if we have time on the show. Now, I'd like to start off on AYV on Sunday. When we have a guest, we ask for what's the highlights of the week were. And I'll start off with Andrew from governance, from the governance perspective. What has been your highlight for the week, Andrew?
It's the Bar Association, obviously. It's the Bar Association election is the highlight of the week. And of course, in relation to that, there was a publication done by the IGR this week, which was on the closure of civic space. And the Bar Association is one institution that's actually, I wouldn't say mandated, but it has a role in broadening and deepening civic space, democratic space in Sierra Leone. So that's why we're kind of concerned about what.
So with the highlights that with what you've mentioned, from the week past, do you think what happened has now reduced that space, or it is constricting the space?
So what happened at the bar, what happened in Kenima it's not a problem. It's actually a symptom of a problem. It shows that the problem exists. That report shows that for the past 10 years, what we now see, we have about the lowest rating of policing. Only 18.8% of Sierra Leoneans actually trust the police, and only 36% of Sierra Leoneans actually trust the courts. And we expect the Bar Association to be the institution that should be overseeing what happens in the judiciary, promoting justice reform, promoting just the delivery of justice. So what we saw is the crippling of political parties, the overreach of political parties in institutions that should be overseeing.
So before I get to Julian and Alfred, let me ask, if a snap survey is done at the moment, what do you think would be the result of the, I mean, put it strongly, the credibility or the perception of people about the Sierra Leone Bar Association?
I think what happened in Kenema has been roundly condemned by both SLPP and APC. I don't think there is, maybe there are a few Sierra Leoneans, those that are the actors in the midst of all of this, that will approve what is happening, depending on the voice on either side. But Sierra Leoneans roundly condemn. I think as long as you vote in this country, you must have sympathy for one side or the other. But what Sierra Leoneans all converge on is the idea that we want better life, we want good health, we want to have water. And the institution that is mandated to deliver that is actually justice. Justice is a resource. Justice is a resource that is controlled by the state. And mark you, John, it's one, if not the only service that the state does not outsource. The state can outsource the delivery of health, the delivery of education, everything. But the state will not say, you know, security and justice has to be outsourced to some entity. So it's a core function of the state, and that's why if it collapses, the state and everyone literally suffers. So that's why what happened in Kenema, it's not only something that is worthy of special notice, but it's troubling for many Sierra Leoneans and all governance observers paying attention.
Now let me go over to you, Julian. I mean, your highlights for the weekending. What has been your highlight so far?
The highlight has to definitely be the electoral haste that happened in Kenema, when few members of the Bar Association decided to stand in the way of democracy, to stand in the way of best practices when it comes to elections. That has to be the highlight. And it's not just highlight for highlight's sake. It's highlight that truly should direct the spotlight on our governance, democracy, rule of law, electioneering processes, and all of that. Because like Andrew Lavalier said, it's actually a symptom. But then it's a symptom that is worrying. It is worrying because the Bar Association should be the signpost of democracy. It should be the signpost of good governance. It should be the signpost of rule of law. It should be the signpost of those lofty ideals that should govern and that should dictate how a nation should be ruled, how a nation should be governed. So if the Bar Association had few members who decided to model democracy the way they did in Kenema, it definitely has to be the highlight, and it's a pathetic highlight, and believe me, it doesn't look well for the association, it doesn't look well for the nation.
I'll come back to you, Julian. Let me go over to Alfred. Your highlights for the week?
Definitely my highlights for the week has to do with the Sierra Leone Bar Association elections in Kenema, and I chose that as a highlight because for me, it presents an opportunity. This is an opportunity for us all as lawyers, as Sierra Leoneans, to go back to the drawing board and then see how we can effect major reforms in the Sierra Leone Bar Association in particular, and ensure that the Bar Association is able to function as a potent force, one that can actually provide the voice that is needed to hold governments accountable, the voice that is needed to regulate society. So it's actually disappointing that people who we believe should actually effect the change that we all need, we are seeing destroying ballot papers, attacking ballot boxes, as you can see from the video. Those people actually knew that definitely there are legitimate channels. If I'm aggrieved, if I'm not happy, if I'm disappointed about processes and procedures, about elections, I should not reduce myself to people at Godwich. There's a constituency that used to have violence all over the place whenever there's elections. We are not expecting that. So this is an opportunity for Sierra Leoneans, especially
All right,
for
so
lawyers.
pause, Alfred, I'll come back to you. I wish our producers could go back to that. Julian, that was you there in the hall.
Yes, that was Julian.
I think you were raising an objection. What was the objection raised in that video? With the process, what were you saying?
You see, I personally did not only start raising an objection in Kenema. You know, before going to Kenema, I had written personally to the executive to say, look, we have to consider several issues relative to these elections, right? I said to them, we have the bulk of the membership being junior lawyers. These junior lawyers, they would find it extremely difficult, particularly during these economically challenging times, to make their way to Kenema, to get accommodation in Kenema, to feed themselves in Kenema. I raised that issue and I said, because of the economic climate...
So in short, you are opposed to taking the AGM to Kenema?
Because of the economic climate, I said, can we reconsider the Kenema venue? I did not only stop there. I also said, we had an extraordinary general meeting the last time concerning the General Legal Council, elections into the General Legal Council. And I said, can we discuss the issue of proxies? Because in that election for membership into the General Legal Council, which was basically the quota the Bar Association was supposed to send to the council, there was a very serious issue with regards to proxies. In fact, it was Francis Ben Kaifala himself who chaired that meeting. And he unilaterally...
So what was the issue with proxy? Was it that, I mean, as it happened, it was going to be said that there will be no proxy?
So to start with, we had been using proxies to vote. We'd been using proxies to vote, right? Up until we had that extraordinary general meeting in court number 1 for elections of members of the association to the General Legal Council. That was when Francis Ben Kaifala, who was also imposed as chairman of that meeting. Well, in fact, when they started, they said he was chairman of the meeting. I objected. And the president said, oh, he was not chairing the meeting, he was chairing the elections. I also objected, and all of these objections were based on the provisions of the M&A. The M&A says for a meeting to be chaired, it has to be the president. In the absence of the president, the vice president. And Francis Kaifala was presented as the chairman. I objected. And the president, realizing that they were wrong, then moved on and said, oh no, he was going to chair the elections for General Legal Council membership and not being chair of the meeting. I objected also, and I relied on the M&A. I said the M&A says for us to have a chairman or a returning officer for the election, it has to be the membership appointing that person to be chairman, right? They realized there was no hiding place left, and they ignored and abandoned it. They ignored it, the point. And they went ahead.
Now, who ignored the point? The executive?
The executive. By the way,
what does the M&A say about the executive?
The M&A,
until an election
the M&A is very clear. You see, Article 17 says, the president, under the case of his or her absence or inability to act, the vice president shall be chairman of the association and the executive thereof. 18 says, if at any meeting there is no such chairman present within 15 minutes after the time appointed for holding such meeting, the members present shall choose another member of the executive as chairman, and if none be present, or if all of them present decline to take the chair, then the member present shall choose one of their number to be chairman, and the chairman of such meeting shall have a casting vote as well as an original vote. So the point I am making basically, in that GLC meeting, I just want to give you background. In that GLC meeting, that meeting for elections of members to GLC, the president was there, right? Francis Ben Kaifala was, however, presented as chairman. I objected, based on the law, the M&A. And the president said, oh, he was not chairing the meeting, he was chairing the elections. In other words, it was going to be the returning officer of the elections. I also objected. and directed them to the M&A to say, for you to be returning officer, you have to be appointed by the membership, and that was not the case.
So, are you saying that was a unilateral decision made by the executive to in that meeting to say that Francis Ben Kaifala would be the returning officer?
It was not only unilateral. Mind you, we're talking about the GLC meeting in Freetown to start with. Let's just a second. Don't second. Mr. Commander, be patient.
It's okay. We can.
You are not the body of the
program.
Be patient.
You have your bite, gentlemen.
Be patient.
You have your bite, Alfred.
The truth would have to be said, right? Let me just quickly say this. That meeting was for elections of members to the General Legal Council. Francis Ben Kaifala was imposed as returning officer after I had clearly shown that he could not have been chairman of the meeting, right? It was imposed unilaterally and illegally, right? So I raised that concern relative to that meeting regarding proxies, because Francis Ben Kaifala ruled out proxies in that meeting. So in my letter I said, as an executive, we are now going into these elections, and clearly there was far more tension leading to those elections. Can we discuss and determine, can we have clear-cut guidance on the issue of proxy? Just a second. The executive declined entertaining these issues, right? So when you saw me there raising a point of order, it was not the first time. I had done so through letters, right? Again, let me just say, that video you saw, Francis Ben Kaifala was counting votes. Now, what were these votes he was counting? These were votes he was counting that were cast according to him when he was issuing ballot papers without reference to the register.
All right, Julian,
there is no election that you don't have a voter register.
So that was the objection.
And he was issuing it. So I was saying,
it's okay,
you
Julian,
cannot count these votes because the votes were cast against the backdrop of issuance that were not based on the register.
Julian, I'll come back to you. I need to go to Commander. But one question before I go to Commander. Have you, representing Wara and Mara camp now, have you condemned the act of violence?
Clearly, I mean, nobody has said that acts of violence are acceptable. They are unacceptable.
Have you condemned it? Have you condemned it?
I mean, certainly I've been on the radio stations and I've said clearly that that was a very shameful situation. So clearly we are condemning it, and even here now we are condemning it. But there must be a distinction between violence and protest. So for example...
So are you saying that was a protest, that a lawyer could walk up to where the elections are being held, take the ballot papers and throw them on the...
Certainly that cannot be protest. But you saw members of the association standing up and saying, Mr. purported returning officer Francis Ben Kaifala, you cannot conduct these elections because you have not been legally appointed. So that was protest.
It's okay.
And that must be distinguished from what was violence. Clearly, there were protests, and those protests were legitimate.
I'll come back to you, Julian. Alfred,
yes.
Now let's go to, I mean, Julian, he was trying to talk around the aspect of the issue of proxy votes that were not allowed. But let's go back now to Kenema.
Yes,
all right,
yes,
give us the side of your story, and then questions would come, regarding your executive at the moment. Give us the side of your story.
So firstly,
what really transpired in Kenema from your point of view?
Before we go to Kenema, just like what he said, they took the matter to courts. The courts gave a ruling, and I don't know why Julian, as a lawyer, can still not respect the decision of the courts. The court said these particular elections, this particular AGM should be held in Kenema. It's a decision of the courts. The court said no proxies because this is a company limited by guarantee without a share capital. It's not a company limited by shares. These are all decisions of the courts. And if Julian Cole, Warasei Kamal, Augustine Sorisengbe Mara are actually not satisfied with that decision, they know what to do. They should have appealed the decision. They know that. They did not do it. Now we went to Kenema. And I would like to read certain provisions. 11 says, a general meeting shall be held once in every calendar year at such time not been more than 15 months after the holding of the last preceding general meeting, and place as may be prescribed by the company in general meeting, or in default at such time and place as the members of the executive shall appoint. This is so clear. We went to Kenema recently, we conducted the AGM, and we did not decide on place and time for the next general meeting. So in that case, the executive can now say, we are going next to Krubola.
No, but why was the executive so insistent on having the AGM held in Kenema?
Yes, Kenema is not Liberia, it's not Guinea, it's not.
I mean, nobody's arguing that
Yes.
fact. Nobody's arguing that fact that Kenema is not Togo.
Leone. It's in Sierra Leone. And in fact, people can move from Bo to Kenema. They can move from Freetown to Kenema on the same day, return back to Freetown on that same day.
But that's
held AGM.
But that's when you feel safe when you have 10 or 15 people moving. But yet you have hundreds of lawyers moving from Bo to Kenema.
Oh, that was adventurous. In fact, I was in conduct of a particular bus. A bus. You know, you actually have a huge number of lawyers in one bus. I remember the days when I was a Bosco boy and we go for excursions. Yes. So
but wouldn't you have given thoughts to the logistical arrangements around moving people from Freetown to Kenema?
Wait. There is a problem with this. All of the camps we are moving from Freetown. Most of their members, we are moving from Freetown to Kenema. Not just Wara and Sorisengemara. No. There's a movement of Team Tuma, Team Sorisengemara, Team Wara from Freetown.
But how do you move 1,200 people from Freetown to Kenema? When, of course, you know that there would not be enough hotels, guest houses to house them. I'm asking
assuming?
I'm asking a question.
No, that question. You know, basically, I'll tell you, the movement from Freetown to Kenema, firstly, is legit.
But are there enough hotels and guest houses to house 1,200 people from Freetown?
That's why you have Julian and his team members in Bo, for example. Bo is just a 45-minute drive.
But Bo is not Kenema.
That's what I'm saying.
That's 45 minutes away from Kenema.
They chose to be in Bo.
Bo is not Kenema.
They chose to be in Bo.
Kenema is Kenema. Bo is not Kenema. Okay. That's 45 minutes drive away from Kenema.
So who do you want to fault for that?
No, you're answering the question.
Somebody for that?
You're answering the question.
No, I am saying Kenema firstly is Sierra Leone. Secondly, this was a decision by the executive members.
But the other side of the table, I mean, they're basically suggesting that was all part of the gun plan to have the elections not go their way. So that is why it was moved to Kenema.
So they are actually saying that the executive had to move the elections to Kenema to advantage Tuma Adamajabi and his supporters. No, that's not correct. Now to the next.
So what is correct?
What is correct is that a level playing ground was created for each and every member. We actually had to move from Freetown to Kenema. I moved from Freetown with a team. And when we talk about elections, it's not an event. It's a process. It's a process. So I was actually talking to somebody about the 10 virgins.
So do you think that a level ground was created? Was a level ground was in Kenema when most of the Wara and Mara team were housed in Bo? You think that a level ground was created and most of the Tuma Jabi team?
Firstly, I don't know where the Wara and Mara team chose to reside. I don't know whether they were in Kenema or they were in Bo.
I thought you said I was
but
in Bo.
You?
Yeah, you said that just.
No, what I'm saying.
Now that you say you don't know.
I don't know because I actually saw a number of them in Kenema.
Well, you just
Allow me to say something. This is not for you to say.
No, well, as a colleague, I just don't want you to be contradicting yourself on national TV.
No. This is not for you to say. Now, if they chose to be in Bo, that's their own business. If we chose to be in Kenema, that's our own business. It's part of our strategy to win the elections. We were there to win. We knew firstly that we had the numbers. We knew that. And we knew we had the strategies too.
You had the strategy and the resources.
Yes, of course.
Because you're coming, your candidate is serving as a government appointee. So you are coming you have the resources because you can go to Bo and book all the hotels and reserve them.
So this is very unfair to say because somebody is serving in government, they have access to resources.
No, but it's a question. It's not an assumption. It's a question.
No, that type of question.
But it was you who said you have the strategy and resources.
We have the numbers. We have the strategy.
You have the resources.
You understand? And of course, we had the resources to go to Kenema. They too had the resources. That's why they were in Kenema.
You had the resources to go to Kenema. That was why you could. That was why you could go to Kenema and book all the hotels.
That's laughable. How can we book all the hotels? Like the hotels are these are private businesses. Private businesses, you know. So how can we go and say, okay, we want all these hotels, and sure you don't rent out to Team Julia and Team
So
Wara.
give us, let's move on with your side. Let's move on with your side of the story.
Yeah, to the next point, yeah? The next one says, the business of the annual general meeting shall include the election of the president, vice president, and other members of the executive, the reception of annual accounts, and the reports of auditors. And key of these points is 15 of the Articles of Association. No business shall be transacted at any general meeting unless a quorum of members is present at the time when the meeting proceeds to business, save as herein otherwise provided. 6 members personally present shall be a quorum. Now, we went to Kenema. 6 members, just 6 members. We went to Kenema.
But I mean that aspect of the M&A, I'm sure you, I mean, together with the rest of the team would say this has to be reviewed.
Yeah, sure.
That's an unfair instruction.
So basically, this is what I'm saying.
Whatever
not
clause
just
that
the
is.
section, not just the section. I'm being very fair to myself, my country, and the Sierra Leone Bar Association. A number of sections or articles actually need to be reformed. You understand? For example, this is one of them. 6 members, no. Secondly, how can we appoint an electoral commissioner or returning officer on the day of the election? That's what it says. You actually appoint one person. You understand? You expect one single person to conduct an election for 1,200 members.
Okay, now let's go to the I mean, granular details. Now, you read from the M&A.
Yes,
right? It
15.
says 14. I'll go back to 14. It says the business of the AGM shall be for the elections.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, shall include the election of the president, vice president, and other members of the executive, the reception of annual accounts, and the reports of auditors.
Now, so the question emanating from this would be, why then was the election the most important aspect of the August 18 AGM?
Well, I think the elections are very, very important because that's when mandates are renewed for the new sets of directors who now have the mandates of members of the Sierra Leone Bar Association to run the affairs of the association for the next 2 years. So it's a very key component for people like us who believe in democracy.
Why was it moved from the item agenda that it was number to number 2 or 3 in the agenda? Why was it?
So that item was item number 8 on the agenda. Now, firstly, we have to think about processes and procedures. How do you move the item number 8 to number 2 to amend that particular agenda? Is by way of a motion. So Francis Ben-Kelfala raised the motion for the item to be moved from 8 to 2. And the key reason is we've conducted elections wherein we've taken members deep into the night. There are times we stay there till 2 o'clock. And this is not the time when you had 1,200 voters, less than that. Now you have 1,200 voters. So please, let us amend the agenda, ensure we bring item number 8 to item number 2.
How
so that
many
elections,
members were in the hall when that was being that was being raised? That you need to move.
So we have more than the quorum, far more than the quorum.
Okay. So I'm not asking about the quorum now. I'm asking a specific question.
So
how many members were in the hall?
You want me to approximate because I cannot tell you. It was a huge number.
You have 1,200 registered, right? According to the register that was published.
Yeah, that was a huge number. I cannot tell you. I can't be exact, but it's far more than the quorum. The hall was almost full.
Julia.
Yes, you see, we have to be very sincere with the association. We have to be very sincere with the nation. Now, let me be very clear. An agenda item can be amended. The agenda of the AGM can be amended.
Thank you.
We have never said you cannot amend the agenda. We have never said that, right? Now, what we have said and we will continue to say is this. The agenda says 12 midday to 1 p.m. arrival of members and registration of members. That is what it says. So in other words, there is no way you can call the meeting to order before 1 p.m. There is no way you can call the meeting to order before 1 p.m. Now,
was the meeting called to order before 1
p.m.?
Oh,
yeah, clearly. They have admitted that in their press release.
Alfred, was it called to order before 1 p.m.?
Yes, it was.
The meeting was called to order.
Before 1 p.m.
Allow me.
Before 1 p.m.
Mr. Cole, I am very honest and I'm being very sincere to this august body. The meeting was called to order at 12 o'clock.
Thank you very much. So my point basically is this. The agenda says 12 midday to 1 p.m. arrival and registration of members. So what that means is there is no way you can call the meeting to order before 1 p.m. because 12 to 1 was for arrival and registration of members. So now listen, if you call the meeting to order before 12, what agenda were you using? What agenda were you using?
Now with your, Julian, with your planning and knowing the importance of that day, wouldn't you as a team, I mean with all the other lawyers you're traveling with from Bo to Kenema, wouldn't you have said to the team, listen, we have to be there early to be sure that we participate in this process? Don't assume that things will go as indicated.
Oh, no. That could not have been an assumption. And that is the reason why I would take a little time to say there's a concept called legitimate expectation. It's a legal concept, but pretty much commonsensical. In the sense that if I communicate to you that we'll be starting this program at 1 p.m., right? Legitimately, you expect me to start that program at 1 p.m. and not before 1 p.m., right? So that's a legitimate expectation. And so that was communicated by the executive of the association through the agenda that was published to the membership of the association. So members legitimately expected that the program was going to start in earnest at 1 p.m. So now if you went and amended...
Were you in the hall when the amendment was made?
Oh no, I was not. In fact, I went...
Were you informed after the amendment was made that now there's a change in agenda?
You see, this is it. I went to the gate. There was a queue. We had to queue to enter. Police officers were there. They were holding on to a list, right? So I joined that queue. You know, I joined the queue at about 10 minutes to 12. 10 minutes to 12. I had been in the queue, moving up, and I came to the point where I was to enter. They looked at the list, and my name was not there. And I said, let me look for myself. The police officer gave me the list. I looked for myself. My name was not there. This was about 12. The president came just about that time, and she met us there, right? So this is the point again. You could not have said the president was absent because it was not yet 1 p.m. The president was there at about 12. And that was the time when people were supposed to come and register. So the point I am making, and this is a very serious point, any amendment made before 1 p.m. was illegal, was improper, and was not in any way valid. They have said in a press release they put out to my campaign that, oh, the chairman in the very first day of the conference had said we were going to start at 12, right? I did not hear the chairman say that, but assuming without conceding that the chairman did say that, let's assume for 1 second that he said that. That could not have been an amendment of the agenda. At best, probably it was restating that we will start registration and arrival at 12. Amendment is a very serious issue. You know why amendment is a very serious issue? Because the membership of the association needs to understand what would be the business of the annual general meeting. So you cannot just amend, at random. You would have to amend based on laid down procedures. And one of them would have to be amending when the meeting was supposed to have actually commenced, not before the commencement of the meeting. And I'm saying this to you, the amendment before the meeting commenced was clearly a ploy. It was a ploy to deprive people, a good number of them, who were in Bo. It was very clear. Kenema, the hotels were full. So people had to stay in Bo. So they were going to leave Bo and come to Kenema in the morning. And mind you, the executive had communicated to these people through the agenda that the meeting was going to start at 1. So if you were now going to amend before 1, so it was deliberately to deprive those people participation.
If there was a change in the agenda, whose responsibility was it then to reach out to members of your team to inform them there has been a change in the agenda? Wasn't that the responsibility?
The very first, of course, the word went out. The moment they proposed changing the agenda, the word went out. But the point is that amendment was clearly illegal.
Andrew.
It was illegal because you said you were going to amend before 1 p.m. when in fact the meeting was supposed to start at 1 p.m. You cannot have a football match and you say 12 when in fact it was supposed to be 1, and you say we are going to see
Julian,
points.
let me bring Andrew in. I mean, you feel like we're probably getting tossed. I mean, everyone following the bar association issues getting tossed, up and down, not understanding what's really happening. Yes, from a governance point of view, Andrew, what's this? What's happening to? I mean, an association of 100% literate people that you were expecting to now follow rules and procedures. Who they are respecter of that. They deal with norms and precedents to say now this is what is supposed to happen and this is what we are supposed to do on a given day, Andrew.
John, I was privileged to be the keynote speaker for the Bar Association event. I was there on Friday, and I spoke in the afternoon, and I came back to Bo. So I saw many things. In fact, in the hotel where I resided, there were many lawyers. In fact, it was all full of lawyers. So many things went wrong. So even what Julian is talking about, even before the event was scheduled, before the rescheduling, we realized that there was a truck that blocked the road from, making it difficult for lawyers that were in Bo to access the hall in Kenema. So, with all intents and purposes, let's forget about the legality of it. I'm not a lawyer.
You cannot interrupt.
Excuse
Alfred, hold on. I want to protect Andrew. Hold on. Julian and Alfred, please.
Thank you.
When you guys were having your bite, Andrew was here listening quietly, I'm sure making mental notes.
No, but
now he's
hold
on, Alfred.
Okay. So there is what they call legality and what they call expedience.
Okay.
It's not only legality that you rule society. That's what they call expedience.
Okay.
So if you say, I'm doing this because this is right, there are certain times when the right thing can be wrong.
Okay.
So that's where I'm coming from. So if you have a meeting of, say, of a club, and then say a percentage that I cannot ascertain whether it was a majority that was in Bo or a majority was in Kenema. But for the fact that there are people in Kenema across the bridge who could not join, I think it's across the bridge in Bo who could not join. I think it was just commonsensical to say, let us wait. Even if it was timely for the votes to be done, I think it was expedient for them to say, I'm not talking about it's illegal.
I know.
I'm not saying that, but it was expedient. In the interest of the solidarity of the bar, it was just expedient to say, let us wait for our colleagues to come over to cross. But you know what? There's an elephant in the room, and that's really what our paper touched. touched on, which is really the political undercurrents in all of this. We titled our paper Front Groups of Political Parties. And it's called front groups because when you look at all of the two camps, so the two camps, the politicians, or well, the candidates in both camps, they were on radio and on TV saying that I belong to this party and I belong to that. There is no harm in lawyers belonging to political parties. There is no harm. As a matter of fact, Julian and Alfred, if you are SLPP and APC, I think what Sierra Leone expects of you is to say, no, we can be in different political parties, but this is the standard of society that we want. We cannot take our kids to England because we are going to fix our schools here. This is the quality of roads that we want to use. So that's what you expect from an organization that is 100% elite. In fact, it should be the most elitist organization in Sierra Leone. But look at the candidates. In that paper, we actually did the background checks of the two candidates. Candidate 1, Tuma Jabi, her parents hail from Kailam, stronghold of SLPP, whereas her parents hail from Bombali, stronghold of APC. The father of Tuma Jabi has been the conscience of SLPP, one time MP for the SLPP, and flag bearer aspirant within the SLPP in 2011. And it's the same for Wara's father, Seri Kamal, of blessed memory, APC MP from Bombali, one-time Attorney General, Minister of Justice. But don't get me wrong, these are very fine people, both of them. So Tuma's dad was known to be the conscience of SLPP. In fact, if SLPP want to do something wrong, they will say, Unawe to Bubwaka Jabi will drag us to court. So these two daughters, they hail from families that are good families. I mean, it's the same with Seri Kamara. Seri Kamara lived very close to Solomon Berra. He used to walk across the street to discuss matters pertaining to both parties. And he was an ardent defender of, APC party, especially young people that go in conflict with the law. He was known for that. And his daughter took cue of that. Wara Seri Kamara has been in the APC legal team. Same with Tuma. Tuma, her husband was the former candidate for the mayoral candidate for SLPP here, and she's a government appointee. So we all do know that. I'm not saying it's not their right. I mean, that's why you...
So Andrew, in a sense, this moved away from just the lawyers now.
What is wrong, what is right, but it's about political parties actually trying to grab the bar situation. And why is that? Because the bar it should be the most powerful. I don't know, it's debatable between the bar and the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, which one is more powerful. But any day I would say the bar. Because the bar, by its composition, it should be populating at least 15 to 20 boards and committees.
Are these actions now getting to a point where the association is beginning to lose its voice, or has lost its voice instead?
That's why I agree with Wells. I agree with Alfred when Alfred said it's an opportunity. I think it's an opportunity. It's a moment of sober reflection. I think it's not just good for both sides, for Alfred to Julian to say my side is right. That, I don't know how old that your M&A is. In fact, it's laughable when you say 6 people forming a quorum. I think we have up to 4,000 lawyers in Sierra Leone. 6 people forming a quorum is laughable. It's good you go back to this instrument, because as a matter of fact, this instrument is not actually responding to the challenges of our time. The biggest challenge in Sierra Leone now is partisanship and polarization. So if you have an instrument that is not saying that if you are politically exposed to certain level, you should not, vie for a position in the bar, I think it should be reflected. All of us playing with sensitive data, we sign what they call it as an ethics of non-partisanship. So it behoves the bar to say, not only the executive, if you are appointed to be a member of the bar, say for example, in a constitutional review committee, because these are powerful committees,
Yeah, sure.
that individual needs to sign an ethics bond, which all members will hold that individual to account for. It's dangerous if SLPP controls the bar. It's equally dangerous if APC controls the bar. And especially coming on an eve where only 36% of Sierra Leoneans actually trust the justice system. And this is where we expect, I mean, John, what is happening, it's not a conversation of Alfred versus Julian. It's a conversation about the future of our justice system. Because the bar association, the bar in other countries, what the Legal Aid Board is actually doing, which is delivering access to justice for especially the underprivileged, is bar associations in other countries that actually deliver that.
And I mean, I know we've had a justice system has had many hits in the past, and with some tests. That would this be the biggest for our justice system, taking into consideration that this is, I mean, it's the bar association that went to the AGM, and the issues now being, emanating from everything that happened around the AGM now boils to what would happen to a decision that will be made to whether or not the AGM will be annulled or the elections would remain, and the association would now coalesce to form a stronger voice and a stronger association to speak as a unit.
So, like I said, it's really just a symptom of the problem. So if the government suspends the Auditor General, the bar will expect a position of the bar on that. If the president sacks the vice president unconstitutionally, we do not need to wait until the ECOWAS court say that is wrong. We expect the bar association to take a position on that. If there's an election held and one political party says, I'm not going to court, we expect the bar association to say, this is the... So it should be the soul of the justice system. Because it's not just about, young people being part of the bar. All those judges, as long as you're a lawyer, I mean, by dint of the way the Sierra Leone justice or the legal training architecture is, immediately when you finish bar school, like you join the bar. So we expect all of them to preach sanity to the process. So what galls me, and I think this really it's something that has struck the spine across civil society, is when you have political groups of entities trying to claim an entity that should be protecting all of us. If anything gets wrong with me today in the course of my work, I expect the bar association to defend me. So it's not about which political party or which interest group controls it. It's really the integrity of that institution. So whilst we agree that there are many things wrong on that day, and I only hope they revisit that decision. You actually go back, because it's really unthinkable. How can we have an AGM where an AGM is meant to be an opportunity where colleagues, folks reconnect. You have a reunion where all of them, you come and dance in the next day you do election. It doesn't matter who wins, because the central obligation of that institution is to defend the welfare of every member.
Yes.
But I spoke to lawyers, female lawyers in Bo, and there are the two of them were saying, I feel timid to face certain panels in court because I know I've been requested certain favors that I did not give. That is telling. I know it's difficult, but that is telling. We talk to people who say, under SLPP, I do not get certain privilege. My career is down. Under APC, I do not get certain privileges. My career is down. This is what is happening. And so that's why I said what we saw is a symptom of the problem. But we actually need to have a conversation of what is the deeper disease.
What is the deeper disease, gentlemen? Do you feel... I mean, Anugos touched on very, very important points now, and he ended by saying, what is the deeper disease? This could only be symptoms of things that are happening underneath. Do you feel like, from both ends, that you feel like you are under political pressure to make it work from your end, Julian? Alfred, same. Do you feel like you're under pressure to make it work from your end? Because this seems to be like it is a battle for political control of the Sierra Leone Bar Association, Alfred.
So for me, I will actually not say under any political pressure, because nobody has pressured me politically, but I will actually tell you that over the years, the Bar Association has not lived to the expectation of the people and even to the expectation of its M&A. Yes, because as lawyers, we are supposed to defend the Constitution. We are equally supposed to defend the rule of law. I was not a lawyer yet when, for example, Sam Sumana was sacked. But I actually followed the story around that. And lawyers could not take a position on that. And I was mad. I actually took a position on Facebook and things like that, but the lawyers who had the power, whom we actually trusted so much to take some action, did nothing, absolutely. So since then, I've been thinking of getting myself into the executive of the Sierra Leone Bar. So I had the opportunity this time to be a member. And I would
Do you appreciate this process? The way you got into the executive, do you appreciate it?
I would say it's quite a mess in a number of ways.
But do you appreciate the process? I mean, stating it's quite a mess is not an answer. Do you appreciate the process of how you got into the executive?
Everything that's got me into the executive is legal, supported by law. Processes and procedures were followed. But I will tell you, it's not free from challenges.
But would you have preferred another process? Would you have preferred another scenario altogether where you would get into the executive and not in this way where, I mean, it should have been you now being on radio or TV propagating what your plans are, instead of now coming to panels like this to have to have a back and forth with teams on the other side that feel aggrieved about
in fact, the key reason why I'm here has to do with, we have what we call entrance legitimacy and performance legitimacy. So for me, I'm particularly concerned about entrance legitimacy because we went there to seek the mandate of the general membership of the Sierra Leone Bar, and it's ended up in such disgrace. We are in members decided, a number of them decided we know the votes. And we said we the votes because we actually knew the only way we can have the mandate to run the affairs of this organization is to go out there, votes. And then after the voting, people will actually say, oh, this is the person we want. So it was shameful that people actually decided to attack democracy. They pressed democracy on its neck. And thank God Francis Ben Kelfala stood up. He said, no, we are going to conduct these elections no matter what. The fact that, firstly, you've been inside this hall, you accepted nominations, they nominated you, it was seconded, they nominated Tuma, it was seconded, they nominated Wara, it was seconded. We said, start voting, people stood in the line, they wanted to vote, they started voting.
So again, back to the question that I asked you about, you said you were looking, I mean, there are issues that you were galled about. You aired your opinion. You posted your opinion on Facebook. You said you had this thought, you had this desire to get into the executive of the Bar Association, and asked the question. I'm going back to it. Do you appreciate the process of how you got into the executive? Do you feel like it could have been done in a better way? So
I went there not expecting that I was gonna pose in the first place. I went there. I actually have campaigned right around Sierra Leone in particular, reached out to people on WhatsApp, on Facebook, and I even had endorsements from people who are not lawyers, and I even had people who were supporting me from the Wara Serikamal camp, people who were supporting me from the Augustine Sorisengbe Mara camp. Alfred, if it's you, we'll trust you, we believe you, we've been following you on Facebook, we know you can stand up for us. Yes. So I knew if I go to Kenema and the ballot box is placed and we vote, I was going to win. However, before I came to the hall, because after the Tuma elections, a friend of ours collapsed, and in fact, he's a member of the Team Wara camp. But he's a friend, he's a brother. We've been, like, for 4 years, we were classmates. Then we went to the law school. So even though he was Wara, I said, no, this is my brother. He fell right before me. I actually had to catch him. Then I went inside the hall because I did not take my vehicle along. I went with the bus. So basically, I told one of the WARAC members that a friend of ours, our brother, has collapsed. Oh, Commander left me, bro. You want to pull me in this place so that when I go thief the election, I make you say so. Let the man die. I was like, shot. So to me, at that point, the elections meant nothing to me. Nothing, absolutely. So I said, you know what? Let me go outside. There's a guy called Nelson. He works for the ACC. So I went, but I was very calm, like talking to him, and he was like, Bobby man, I say if you don't make this guy die, because you don't be the talk like you serious. I said, but this is your vehicle, so I have to take my time. So I came, we took this guy out to the government hospital of Kenema, and we spent more than 1 hour there until he was resuscitated. After that, they called me that, oh, you should be here because your elections are now on. So I came to the hall, but I must tell you that when I came, Augustine Sorisengbe-Maya, Wara Seri Kamal, and their team members, a number of them have already left.
So again, back to the question, you still haven't, do you appreciate the process that
That's what I'm
that
saying.
got you into office?
The process that got me into office is supported by law. And since it's supported by law, I appreciate the fact that I went unopposed and I won those elections.
So the aspect, so I know, I mean, as lawyers, so the aspect of I mean, it's law, the law versus morality. So the aspect of what is morally right doesn't sit on you. It has to be with the law.
So basically, Julian Cole knows there's a difference between morality and the law. And we are actually not here to discuss morality. We are here to discuss law, the processes and procedures. That's why we are challenging them.
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, Commander. Let me take Julian. I mean, from what Andrew said, and the question of how the elections panned out.
Yes, I mean, on what Andrew said, it's always been a conversation. You know, it's been a conversation as to whether the members of the executive we've been having, you know, whether they have what it truly takes to speak truth to power, to hold government accountable, you know, to stand up for the rule of law, for justice, for human rights, you know, and for good governance. So that conversation continues. And the reasons underpinning the conversation are many. I mean, one of which clearly some people have said, we've been having executive members who are members of the sitting government, and so it's difficult for them to hold the government accountable. It's difficult for them to speak truth to the government. It's difficult for them to say, we think there's a violation of rights there and the government got it wrong. No. We think there's an injustice here and the government got it wrong. So the conversation has always continued, really. And I think, yes, there should be soul searching, and that conversation, I believe, will continue. But I just want to quickly wrap up on this.
Now, Julian, hold on. I want to go to what the I mean, we're looking at best practices, but I want to go to what the Nigerian Bar Association Constitution says. Article 3 of it says that no serving president or other national officer shall canvass or solicit for appointment in government, or if offered, must decline. Otherwise, he or she shall be deemed guilty of professional misconduct and shall not attend or speak at any meeting of the association for such conduct, provided that the provisions of the subsection shall not apply to members of the association who are serving as representatives of the association or the executive bodies, commissions established under the Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria, as well as having members of Nigerian Bar. Yes, so it's the Nigerian Bar Association. I mean, wouldn't this be the best case scenario as well for?
Yeah, like I've said, that conversation is not only starting now. It's a conversation that's being around for quite some time, and it is being around particularly with reference to.
But have you as a bar being opposing these appointments? Because they come and people get appointed and they get on board. And I mean, the case of Tuma Gento-Kamara now, she just won the elections. I mean, it all depends on how you describe it. But the returning officer announced the result, and the new executive has been announced.
Yeah, you see, I mean, the M&A of the association, the Memorandum and Articles of Association, doesn't say if you're a member of the government, working for the government, if you're a lawyer, you should know. But some people have raised it up very seriously, that there is a serious issue of conflict of interest. If you are the chairperson of the National Revenue Authority, right, and you are also the president of the Sierra Leone Bar Association, an association which should be a watchdog, an association which should be able to hold government accountable on issues of justice, rule of law, good governance, and all of those. So people have raised it up that there is a serious conflict of interest, and as I have said, that conversation continues. So it's a very serious conversation, and one only hopes that the bar would evolve to a point where we would found, I mean, the M&A speaking directly to issues.
Why are you hoping now? Because because all the objections you raised prior to the elections in Kenema were not heard or acquiesced to. Or why are you hoping now?
So we can't give up on hope. That is the reason why we have stood up to say what happened in Kenema was a clear disgrace. It was a clear disgrace to democracy. It was a clear disgrace to electoral best practice. I just want to round up quickly on this issue of that amendment. Interestingly, in fact, before the General Secretary's reports, on the agenda, we had a function to be done by the General Legal Counsel. We had a function to be done, lawyers yearning for equal rights, justice, and blah, blah, lawyers, right? Those were not done. So in other words, even if the amendment was legal, we have said it was not illegal, but even if it was legal, let's say it was legal, and then it stood, what about those other items? Why were those items not conducted? They were not conducted.
Can there not be an EGM where you get that?
This is the point. They were not conducted because the perpetrators of this dastardly act knew if they had gone into those other items, people would have been able to come to the hall,
but again,
and their grand scheme would have fallen into pieces. So that was the reason why, even though the amendment was done, it did not touch.
With all those items on the agenda, can't they be now addressed in an EGM, Extraordinary General?
No, you cannot. We are talking about the agenda of the annual general meeting. The M&A is very clear about the difference between an annual general meeting and an extraordinary general meeting. That was the annual general meeting, and by the M&A, that was where we were supposed to get reports from our secretary general, from our general secretary, from the treasurer, also audited reports. It's about the stewardship of the organization. Let me just clearly say this, right? So it clearly showed that they were up to something. If they were not up to something, you had amended. Let's take it for granted that you had amended for the secretarial report to go back, so that you have elections. What about the items coming before the Secretary General's report? For example, lawyers speaking to us, General Legal Counsel speaking to us. And there were some other issues. All of those were skipped. They were skipped because the grand scheme of things was to get people out. And if they had gone to those issues, people would have been able to come to the hall.
Alfred, was that the plan?
They were skipped.
The grand scheme of things. The grand scheme of things, so that people would not be able to come to the hall.
Is that firstly, we had more ideas on how to win those elections than them. Secondly, we had more people on our side who believed in the vision and mission of Tuma Adamajabi and her team. Thirdly, the law has never been on their side. Even before we went to Kenema, these people were jittery. They took 2 actions to court. Just after the Julian Cole and his team members took a matter to court, and they lost woefully because the law did not support their position in any way, Warasari Kamal filed another paper, even though the same issues have been addressed.
Now, Commander, if you are in favor of a level playing ground, I mean, you had a presiding officer who then, the returning officer.
Yes.
As a team, wouldn't you have asked for members that were traveling from both to Kenema to appeal on their behalf, to have them being in the hall before the actions or electoral processes were commenced?
So the events were in Kenema. Everybody knew we were heading to Kenema. Everybody knew the program will start at 12. And we went there with a clear mission. We went there.
But you, in your memorandum and article of association, it is clear that your posture as an association, as an organization, as a collective of people is to seek for fairness.
Yes.
Of citizens that you're representing.
Yes.
How about seeking fairness for your members?
So
whether or not you are on different sides of the divide, Andrew, it's seeking fairness for those who are on their way from Bo traveling to Kenema for the AGM. Andrew,
yes.
I'll come back to you, Alfred. Andrew.
Definitely. So I think that's one problem that should be acknowledged, and I don't know how you're going to fix that, but I think that's really, it's something that is very serious. So I don't know, I think it was around 11, 12 o'clock that I heard about the challenge on the highway and the bridge. It was actually in the middle of the bridge, which means it was impassable. You cannot access, a bypass so it was.
Julian, were you there?
Sorry?
Were you there?
No, I was not. I saw
Okay.
the video.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that was a problem. John, you and I are the non-lawyers on this, and I don't want to believe that most of my problems are not necessarily solved by law. They are solved by my understanding on what should be good and people's understanding on what should be good. And that's how society, I think, should be run. The challenge we're facing, and I continue to harp on that, Sierra Leone is quite a divided country. It's difficult for us to agree on how do we solve our water crisis. You drop the conversation around energy, it takes APC, SLPP coloration.
That's true.
So that's why it's good for institutions like this to always safeguard themselves. The problem with the bar is not just with the bar association, John. If you go to bike riders association, if you go to student union, unfortunately, party politics has also much permeated this institution. I remember when I was a student, it doesn't matter which party is in power. What was paramount, our president at that time was Umar Fofana, who were in the Students' Representative Council. So what we are seeking is students' welfare. And it actually behoves learned people, of this caliber to note that there's quite a lot that society has put in their trust. But one of the things I mentioned in my keynote, I drew quite a lot from, there's a writer called Kaplan. Kaplan said, the biggest challenge we face in Sierra Leone is the absence of the bourgeois class. And what that means, elites are not behaving like bourgeois, they are behaving like what they call the so-called grassroots. So we are allowing people like blessed memory, Leather Boots, people like Bos, Adebayo to dictate. They actually sing the hymn, and elites, join the chorus. So until and unless you have Joseph Kamara, who is a very good elder brother that I respect very well, he was on the tie table that day, and I saw Banjansi of SLPP. I think these are the people we expect. We expect them to say this. We might be on either side of the fence, but what matters is the interest of Sierra Leone. Let us imagine tomorrow we start the constitutional review process, because this is really a crucial year for the Bar Association. What is going to be the position of the Bar on crucial provisions for Sierra Leone? And this is where we don't want an opposition that will be disruptive of that process. We don't want a ruling party apologist that will hijack the process and mute whatever the intention of citizens will be. So it's good. It behoves both of you. To me, that's really my candid advice. You can go back to the drawing board and actually agree on what is good, not only for the bar, but what is good for this country. But that instrument that both of you keep quoting profusely, the circumstance today have outlived it.
It's
because we in all of our M&As now, our articles, our civil society, I think the cardinal provision should be non-partisanship. If you don't have that, it needs to be inserted. It needs to be inserted.
Now, it needs to be inserted, is what Andrew is saying. But gentlemen, one question is each before we take comments on Facebook. Now, Julian, what are the options so far if the executive of Tuma Adamajabi continue to say that, listen, we won the elections, we don't care about the circumstances under which we won it, we would remain as an executive, what would be your actions from the team you're representing?
You see, there's no way any reasonable person can truthfully say Tuma Jabi and team won the elections. There's no way, right? The circumstances are very clear. They say ocular demonstration needs no further proof. Look at the videos, right? Now, the purported returning officer, they are saying he was nominated, right? There was an objection to his nomination on grounds of conflict of interest. Because when Madam Tuma Jabi was coming from Kenya, they saw Madam Tuma Jabi in a video coming with Francis Ben Kaifala. And underneath that video, it was written, "They don't come for done this game," right? The eve of the conference, they were dancing. There's a video to that effect. Right? These issues, they are serious issues, conflict of interest. But that objection was raised, right? Let's assume that the objection was overruled, which in fact it was not. I mean, some of these things, they were just ignored, right? And then it was said to be a nominee for returning officer. There was another nomination for returning officer, Julius Naikofi. He has said clearly, because some people have said, oh, he declined. He has said clearly that he did not decline. So there was that nomination.
So Kamara is confirming that he did say
well, Julius Naikofi has put out a statement publicly to say he never, to say he never declined. But let's even assume, without conceding, right, that Francis Ben Kaifala was truly nominated against the objection. There was Julius Naikofi's nomination. What does the M&A say? The M&A say, if you have such a situation, you have to vote. It says, look, this is what it says here. It says, elections of the members of the executive.
What's the article?
That is Article 31. Article 31 of the Memorandum and Articles of Association. It says, elections of the members of the executive, any other body or issue shall be determined by simple majority unless otherwise decided by the members of the association. So the issue of returning officer, was it put to a vote? The issue of amending the M&A, was it put to a vote? Let's assume they say it was put to a vote. What does the M&A say about putting this thing to the vote? Let's read what it says. It says 35, Article 35. It says all elections shall be by secret ballot. All elections on any executive position, on any election to a body, on any election on an issue should be by secret ballot. Was the issue of amending the agenda, was it put to a vote? They say, oh, I have had people say, yes, people raise their hands.
So why have you read Article 35?
Exactly.
Was it that the elections were not held by
exactly.
secret ballot?
Some people have said, oh, people raise their hands to determine the issue of the amendment of the agenda.
Wasn't that what happened?
So, just a second, just quickly. Is that what the M&A says? The M&A say election on any issue, or election to anybody, or election of any executive must be by secret ballot. Was a secret ballot conducted to determine between Kofi and Kaifala who was to be the returning officer?
Are you considering a court action, Julian?
Now, everything is on the table. We are working assiduously to ensure that that thievery, that electoral haste that happened in Kenema should not stay.
I love the way as lawyers, I mean, Commander has done the same, Julian is doing the same. I love the way as lawyers, when you ask the questions, you go around and then before giving us the answers, you know. But I'm asking, are you considering...
Also, so that's the point. We have a body that is working on the steps we would be taking. And believe me,
amongst the steps that you'll be taking,
the public would be apprised, the membership would be apprised.
So amongst the steps that you are taking,
so that is what I am saying.
You're giving court.
That is what I am saying. I am not here to give any premature assertion. I am saying the public would be apprised, the membership would be apprised as to the steps we'll be taking as and when we engage those steps. Everything is on the table.
Before Alfred, you know where I sit. You know when you mentioned Julian is the former APC MP in Parliament.
Kofi, yes,
Julius Kofi.
Yeah, he is. So he was running against Ben Kefala is a government appointee. Now, I'm just trying to confirm my theory as to how all of this. So the more you supply names, we actually need to have a framework, a matrix. The more you supply names, and
the more you see the linkages.
So we see linkages and we see how all of this is playing out. Yeah, sorry.
So Commander, no.
I'm going back to 31 that he read.
And then your question before we take a comment.
Yes.
Go ahead
it
quickly.
It says elections of the members of the executive, any other body or issue shall be determined by simple majority. Bam. Then it says unless otherwise decided by the members of the association.
So what does that simple majority imply? In the
Unless
members present at the moment,
of
is
course,
that where you get
of course.
There is no controversy over simple majority.
No.
I only tie that up with 35, which says secret ballot was Francis Ben Kaifala's determination to be returning officer
Julian, hold on.
Was it done by secret ballot?
Julian, hold on. Let me
Was
come.
the
Let me come.
amendment
It's
done
okay.
by secret
Julian,
ballot?
let me come back to Alfred. Alfred,
Unless
what does it say? Members present at the moment,
yes, of course,
or is
at the moment?
Yeah, of course
At
it
the
has to
moment.
be.
Yes,
So what was simple majority then? I asked you earlier, you said you were unable to quantify the number of
Exactly.
members in the hall. So what was simple
How did
majority
you reach
then?
simple
How did you
majority?
read?
So basically we are pushing
How
this
did
too
you reach
far.
simple majority?
Yeah? He's talking about simple majority.
Yes,
and
how did you determine it?
This section, this particular article is not just talking about simple majority. It says unless otherwise decided by the members of the association. This is simple and plain English. And when it comes to the situation of Francis Ben Kelfala, the members who were in attendance decided by raising their hands. You understand? When it equally comes to amending the agenda, which Julian himself has accepted that the agenda can be amended, that too was put to a motion. And it was objected to, and then it was then put to the membership to decide.
Now, your question, before we get to all of that.
John,
Hold on,
no,
Julian.
as a lawyer, we have to be fair to the public. No, I'm very sorry. We have to be fair to the public. We cannot mislead the public on this legal document. Now, when we talk about simple majority, it's talking about the quantum of votes that is necessary. So in other words, the membership could have said, oh no, let's go for 3/4. The membership could have said, oh no, let's go for 2/3.
But is that expressly?
That's the quantum it's talking about. It does not
Julian,
take away.
Julian, if you listen to me, would help you with that.
Yes.
Is that expressly inserted in that document?
The simple majority?
The simple majority.
Yes, but it says...
So for instance, there are some constitutions that will tell you to get a simple majority, you need 50 plus 1, for instance. Now,
fine.
What does it say?
Fine. So let's read it. Let's be fair to the public. It says, elections of the members of the executive, any other body or issue shall be determined by simple majority unless, that in other words, unless the membership says, no, we are not going by simple majority, we are going by 2/3, we are going by 50 plus 1. So that is to the quantum. It does not take away the prescription of elections shall be by secret ballot, which is provided for by 35. 35 states. It is constant. Whether you decide to go by simple majority, whether you decide to go by 2/3, whether you decide to go by 50 plus 1, you will still have to come to
hold on, Julian. You would get your bite. But like Andrew said, this document needs review. And I wish, as members of the Bar Association, you had time to look at this document before coming away from Kenema. So that you look at the things that are outdated that you need to look at, that needs to be addressed.
Mr. Conte, I think I need a bite.
Yes, you would get it. But
Interestingly,
hold on. So the question.
you were asking me this. Let me just say this.
Gentlemen, you have the entire week.
If I'm auditing this, you've given him more opportunity.
Commander, let me go around up. This is the extra.
No, that's what I'm saying.
No. So Alfred, listen. Let me ask you. So have your bite. Let me ask you a question now. Let me ask you a question now, Alfred. The question would be: are you going to say as an executive, as a Tuma Gento-Kamara executive, are you going to say that, listen, we have won the elections, there is nothing deterring us from going forward?
We start work tomorrow.
You start work tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And what will be the actions to unite what seems to be a very starkly divided bar now?
So basically, since Madam Tuma Adamajabi won the elections, her first interview is to extend an olive branch to every member of the bar. We know Soyi-Sengbe-Mara, for example, has been an important member of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. He's a colleague of mine. We are members of the Radicals Club. He served as pen pusher. I was also pen pusher, so I know the stuff he's made of. Warasari Kamal too, we've also extended an olive branch to all of them, including Mr. Julian Cole, that they should come on board. So we are willing and ready to have each and every member on board. However, what we will not entertain is what Julian Cole and Augustine Soyi-Sengbe-Mara have been doing over time. At the GLC elections, they went right on top of the decks of the judges. They were working on it, violently protesting. They did the same in Kenema. They went, attacked democracy by attacking ballot boxes, ballot papers. This is not the correct way to do things. You are just asking him now about what they intend to do. He's telling you a body. There is a body. So there is a body somewhere that actually dictates to them what they should do. And not Julian Cole and the others, but there is a body that actually tells them, oh, this is not the correct strategy you guys need to take. This is the other strategy you need to take, and all you need to do is disrupt the process, discredit these people, ensure you attack them. So, for example, if you actually know that these elections were actually conducted in a manner that you think is not correct, is not accurate, go follow the legitimate routes. So that
means I asked them a question of whether or not they're considering court action, and he says they are
the law is not on their side, so they will not go there.
So are you ready? Are you ready for that?
Of course, we'll
John,
them
it's
seriously.
just talked about legitimate route. But very quickly to Andrew, and with all due respect, I am not in any way attempting to pull the rug from on the submissions you've been making. As a matter of fact, I have said that some of the issues you've raised, there have been conversations ongoing actually. But just quickly, you see, Augustine Soyi-Sengbe-Mara, right, nominated Indolo Moyo Gevao, an SLPP member of parliament.
I know that.
So it was never a question of whether he was from SLPP.
Julian,
whether he was from SLPP or not.
Julian,
so when Julius Naikofi was nominated,
Julian, hold on, gentlemen. Julian, let's be fair.
Yes.
If you look at the spectrum leading to this election, you would clearly see that there is the green aspect and there is the red aspect. Exactly. There is the SLPP and there is the APC. So let us not tend to bring that argument to this table.
So that nomination.
No, I just googled Julian Naikofi's name. This is what came up.
So Andrew is saying the more we bring,
it was about the nomination.
So Andrew is saying the more we bring up names, the more you see linkages.
Augustine Mara nominated
Mara, I've never mentioned Mara to be on either of the sides. Have I?
No, I'm not saying you have. I am saying nominations of people who were supposed to be.
No, he has actually forgotten that he's also here representing Wara.
Returning officer. No. I'm saying nominations
of
gentlemen,
people to be thank you. We want to take some comments.
Political. For example, Geva was nominated by Mara.
It's okay, Julian. We would come back to you for your responses. But let's take some comments. And Salifu Gento-Kamara is on the other side getting the comments ready for us. Salifu, what are our viewers saying?
All right. Thank you so much, John Conte. The first message I'll take is from Almami Mahmoud Sultan Koroma. And he's saying, Commander knows that if these guys go to court, no consideration will be given to them. They have played their game with the support of some invincible judges. Joel Raman Bangura. What happened in Kenema is a shame to those who, held in high esteem, learned people behave like uneducated people. Where is the respect for the rule of law? And Joel Rahim Bangura. The Bar Association is one of the greatest pressure groups in any state, which should never be politicized. What happened showed a clear political interference. Aruna Davis. Commander, are you aware of proxy votes, which had been the normal practice over time? I think it's a question to Commander. And Paul Kanu is saying, the Sierra Leone Bar Association and our judiciary system has been branded a laughingstock and brought to disrupt in the sub-region. These guys should be ashamed defending such unprecedented broad daylight chaotic elections. Sheku Mane, I don't think hosting the events in Kenema is a problem. Any organization can choose any part of the country to conduct their activities. SLAJ have been conducting their general meeting in Kenema. It was fine. Ibs Banks, my questions, why all the ballot boxes that were not used destroyed, but the president's ballot box was secured? What a magic. Amadou Ba, it's important for organizations like the Bar Association to have fair and unbiased processes in place. Political affiliations should not influence the selection of leaders. The incident in Kenema is indeed concerning, and it highlights the need for a review of the Constitution. Let's hope they take the necessary steps to address this issue. Bar Association need eschew every SLPP and APC tendencies in the organization. Osman Prince Sulaiman Kavon, thank you, Honorable Commander, for spelling out the M&A. The burden of proof is on both sides to prove or disprove the irregularities, illegalities, and discrepancies existed in procedural process, and the bylaws were not enforced. Matthew A. Kamara, if you have 1,200 members to be voted on that day, 10 Tuma pooled 500, I think he meant then Tuma pooled 500. What about with the remaining 700 votes? Even though the winner could have still won the election, but the truth is they over-influenced the entire process in their favor. That is the main issue here, based on the outcome. It's essential for professional organizations like the Bar Association to maintain their independence and impartiality, as they play a crucial role in upholding the rule of law and ensuring justice is served. Political interference can undermine the integrity of these institutions and erode public trust. And assuming everything is constant, there are two other candidates. Can you use simple ratio to share the remaining 700 votes? If you do, it tells you Tuma had the numbers required for victory. I think he's answering the first question. Prince Campbell is saying, I will not allow any of my children to be a lawyer anymore in this country. Mahmoud Ba, as a registered member of the Bar Association, I was disenfranchised and deliberately barred from voting because of a grand ploy that was orchestrated by the handful of anti-democratic folks. It's sad that an association that should be independent has now been infiltrated by partisan politicians whose only wish is to defile the independence of the bar and transform it into a puppet of the government. Aaron Benokin, God have mercy upon Sierra Leone. These politicians have determined to destroy Sierra Leone, but God will fight for the ordinary citizens. Your generation will pay for this. Don't worry, God is watching. If the bar is broken, Sierra Leone is finished. Watch what will happen in the next election. Nabiu is saying this bar association risks losing integrity due to political interference for its members. Independence and neutrality are crucial for maintaining its prestige. However, the involvement of SLPP and APC in the process is harmful and poses danger to the nation's future. I will just take two more because of the time. Bar Association has nothing to write home about. And Abdul Karim is saying, Madam Tuma Gento did not crown herself. She was crowned to be the bar president, so let her be. And finally, the lawyers are confusing us, the laymen. Put yourselves together and move forward. The M&A is not a document we can easily comprehend. Back to you. There are more messages, important ones, but because of time, we can't take them. So back to you, John Conte, in the studio. Thank you,
Salif. I mean, I'm loving the phrase that this is going to be an unending conversation for sure. I mean, until there is a closure to this, you'd have this ongoing on social media, traditional media, thereabout until, I mean, the Bar Association, you know, issues a statement to say that we are now one body. We have agreed on moving forward. Now, I mean, I know you want to respond to these comments, but there are a few bits we need to look at as we round up now. The resolution by past presidents, Commander, that would go directly to you.
Yes.
They have requested, I wouldn't read all of it, but I mean, we know the issues that we've mentioned already now. They say that, you know, with everything that has happened, considering, given the gravity of these issues, we unequivocally call for the nullification of the results announced at the AGM in Kenema. And this is undersigned by Charles Francis Magai, former president, Francis Gabidon.
Former presidential candidate, you mean?
Well, I mean, it says...
Okay, presidents of the bar.
Past presidents of the Bar Association.
Okay.
Charles Francis Magai. Last week we had Lawyer Francis Gabidon, who said he didn't attend because he thought and believed that some of these issues were going to happen. We have Emmanuel Shears Moses, there is Joseph Filjial Kamara, Abdul Tijan Cole, Elvis Kagbo, Ibrahim Sowi, Roland Sufian Kagbo, and Basita Michael. So they are all saying the best we need to do is to annul the results from Kenema. Alfred.
Yes, so basically we actually respect their position as members who serve this organization, but they've not supported their position with any law that the elections should be annulled in the first place. And most of these names we don't trust at all. These are people who've aligned with the other camp. Let me start with Shears Moses. Shears Moses publicly declared for Wara Said Kamal. He actually attended the declaration ceremony that was aired on 98.1. How can he have an independent voice in all of this? No way. Basita Michael.
But is he suggesting that he has an independent voice? Is that
of course, that's the position. This is like an independent position. That's the elections have gone this way, so because of that, we have to annul this particular election. No. A voice like that has already taken a position? No. Basita Michael. Basita Michael is one voice that will not even come and condemn things like this. No. She hasn't got the moral authority to do that. This is the same Basita Michael who wrote when Sam Sumana was sacked that, yes, the president had the right to sack Sam Sumana. Now, to Ibrahim Suri.
But did you?
Suri was
I saw. I think I saw the opinion on Sam when he got sacked. But when Laura Taylor Pierce was stepped aside, did you opine on that? The Auditor General of the...
You actually interfering with my flow. You've asked a question.
But that's what I do. That's what I do when I sit here. I have to interfere.
You've asked a pertinent
That's what
question.
I do when I sit. I have to interfere with the flow of affairs.
No, he has asked a very pertinent question. And
proceed.
Let me just complete.
Proceed.
Ibrahim Sori there was actually president of the Sierra Leone Bar Association when the constitution was actually demolished. It was destroyed. That was the time the bar could not take a position because he, as president, was actually siding with the ruling APC, and he continues to side with the ruling APC. Now, you also have JFK on that list. JFK is a strong voice of the APC, a very fine personality, I will tell you. He's my comrade, and he's dictator. I actually refer to him as dictator of the Radicals Club because he's a brother of mine. But how can JFK tell you all of these things? This same JFK who was Attorney General, and then we had a judgment from the ECOWAS courts, and he did not respect that judgment. Now comes back and joins the others to tell us, we have to annul this process because of this and this
when I interrupted your thoughts about you know, posing in questions in between you, and now you're saying this list of individuals that signed this document cannot be trusted because of their political linkages
and that's the body Julian is talking about that they have to listen to before they take any action.
Julian, your question, I know you want to respond to that, but your question
and the Sierra Leone, there's another letter from the African Bank.
So I'm going to hold on. That's not for you. That's for Julian. So I'm going to ask Julian that question about
that's all coming from the Julian end.
No, I'm asking, hold on, Alfred. Let me ask the question.
This letter from
Alfred,
the Sierra Leone.
Can you please hold on? Let me ask Julian the question.
Okay.
I'll ask Julian the question. I'll not read the entire letter now. I've seen it, you know, addressing several things. Now, it says the Sierra Leone Bar Association must live with practical examples by organizing a free, fair, and credible transition where leaders truly and freely chosen by majority of lawyers in Sierra Leone are truly chosen by majority of lawyers. Now they say, the closing paragraph says, we appeal for calm and urge the outgoing executive to work with past presidents and other relevant authorities of the legal profession in Sierra Leone. Alfred, please don't give me that. Allow me to ask the question.
No, I'm just saying it's tight. That's why I actually wanted to address their own letter.
It's okay. Let me ask the question on your behalf now.
Okay.
Let me ask the question on your behalf. Now it says to work with past presidents and other relevant authorities of legal profession in Sierra Leone to break the ice, calm nerves, and forge a united bar association. Isn't that, I mean, as much as the letter is saying we are concerned, but are they now just saying at the closing paragraph that there is an outgoing executive, implying that there is an elected executive? We're now appealing for calm and the outgoing executive to work with past presidents to now bring the bar association to where it's supposed to be, Julia.
No, that's not the implication. I mean, what it means is that the executive of Edinia Swallow, I mean, she's president, right? That's the outgoing executive. In other words, this is the executive that is supposed to conduct an AGM. So it's the outgoing. I mean, if they conduct AGM tomorrow, they conduct AGM a month from today, it still remains at the outgoing. In other words, this is the executive that is going out and that will be handing over to the new executive that would be elected as a result of an AGM, right? So, I mean, we had no AGM. We had no AGM. Day two was clearly a long sequence of violations, a long sequence of electoral scheme, from strangely parking a truck across the road to prevent a good number of members coming from Bo to attend, to calling the meeting to order at 12 when it was supposed to be called to order at 1, to imposing an electoral returning officer on us without going into secret ballot to determine between himself and Naikofi, who was supposed to be the electoral commissioner, to unlawfully amending without putting it to a secret ballot vote.
Alfred says what commences tomorrow. Are you withholding your membership? Alfred?
It's just a second. It was a marathon of machinations meant deliberately to steal power. It was an electoral haste that happened in Kenema. So it was not an AGM. Edinia Swallow has to give us an AGM, and that is what we're demanding. I mean, Alfred Kamanda, is not the public relations officer of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. Tuma Adamajabi is not the president of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. We know that for certain. The law is very clear as to how executive
who remains your president?
The president, as we speak, is Edinia Swallow and is at
Alfred says
they're supposed to conduct.
Alfred says the executive would start work tomorrow.
Oh no, probably he will be working for Camp Tuma Jabi, not for the Sierra Leone Bar Association. He had started working for Camp Tuma Jabi long ago. He would continue doing that, but certainly he would not be working for the Sierra Leone Bar Association.
Anu, a text that says we're getting confused in the whole thing.
Yeah, so there's something in political science they call path dependency, and it's really
in our paper. You know, for anything that happens today, history matters. So if you are having problem with the with the justice system, with the police, with Sierra Leone, basically finding it difficult to provide, water services for itself. History matters. So the way institutions behaved yesterday, the way institutions behave today, is how they are being molded. So if you look at, let me just switch off a little bit to the Sierra Leone police, and it's really, they are all part of the justice and judicial system. So if we are crying about bad policing, it's the way the police is molded in the past. If we saw the police, inflicting injustice, becoming very heavy-handed on innocent citizens, it doesn't matter under which regime. It's because we've come to live with that as the norm. It's the same. So that's what is unfolding today. What is unfolding today, I think both groups are now accepting that, it has to be a camp that should rule the bar. So when now we're complaining about Tuma Jabi, and I completely disagree with the way the process was done, in which it was those positions were attained, and I equally disagree with the fact that there were plans contrived by other groups, to attain those positions for vested interest. So Alfred was recanting backgrounds on some of the people who signed. I think sanity needs to prevail. I mean, people need to come and sit and then say, we cannot hand over, this kind of system to our children. We cannot hand over this to our country. And I really want to encourage the Tuma Jabi group. Alfred is beyond sending an olive branch. He's actually acknowledging that something bad happened in Kenema.
Thank you.
And then coming to sit on the table with Edina Swallow and this group, and then fixing it. To me, it actually starts with fixing the M&A. The M&A is inadequate to address the challenges that you have. I think it's good we all go back to the drawing board and to see how this can be fixed.
When are you doing that? Taking everyone to the drawing board to see how this can be fixed, starting with the review
so
of
I
the
clearly
M&A.
stated that we start work tomorrow effective immediately, and since we won the elections, we've actually extended an olive branch. Madam Tuma is actually out of the country. She's in the UK, but we held our first meeting as members of the executive through a Zoom meeting, and when she is here on Tuesday, we have our various visits. We are actually visiting key stakeholders in the country, and after that, we have to call on Julian Cole and his team members and the other guys that we have one bar, just one Sierra Leone Bar Association. We are telling them this, that's the bar that the Constitution recognizes. That's the bar that the Legal Practitioners Act of 2000 as amended recognizes. That's the bar that the GLC recognizes. And as a result of that, we are willing and ready to work with each and every member. And the good thing is, there are a number of committees within the Sierra Leone Bar Association that Julian Cole can play a role, Augustine Sori Sengbe-Mara can play a role, Warasari Kamal can play a role. But as far as these elections are concerned, there is one way if you want to annul them. It can only be through a court process. If they have decided to hold on to actually moving from one radio station to another, one television station to another, they are just wasting their time. The best they can get out of that is to actually divide the public on who is right and who is wrong. And we've succeeded in clearly, because they ran to Freetown. They were the first set of people who came to the radio station and television. They told their own stories. And what we did is to actually take these videos they are talking about. We actually sent it back to the people. This is the video they sent to you. Now, take a look at these videos. See Julian Cole fighting. See Sori Sengbe-Mara fighting. See Warasari Kamal fighting. Is this what you expect of lawyers?
Were they fighting?
Yes, sure.
In the video?
Sure, sure.
Were they,
Sure. I was in the hall. I was in the hall.
Were they?
Yeah, sure. I'm talking about the video.
They were fighting.
Were they,
I'm talking about
were
the
they
video.
fighting in the
Yes,
video?
they were fighting for what they call their rights.
Okay.
You understand?
So you're being figurative.
Julian Cole, for example, actually was hitting the table. Augustine Sori-Sengdamara was hitting the table.
Let me interrupt and obstruct your line of thought again. I mean, when that list, that letter from past as presidents was read, and the names mentioned there, you zoomed in on each one of them and said there are some names that you really don't trust.
I even did not complete on the names.
Yeah, I mean, you said that there are some names that you really don't trust because of the linkages that they have. You want the public and the camp of Julian to trust your president. I mean, having the linkages to being a government appointee as well and being
so what is not a secret? What is not a secret, and the president herself has made very clear, is that she's SLPP blue-blooded. Everybody in this country knows that. She went on radio, television, and made that very clear. But what is also very clear, you listen to Mr. Lavali, he stated clearly that you had Mr. Jabi and you have Seri Kamal. These were two giants of their parties. But what they did was to hold their parties accountable. That blood runs in her vein.
Is she holding a party accountable at the moment?
No. She has not taken any leadership role that will actually push her to that point. Now is the test case.
But she will when...
No, this is the test case.
Okay.
This is the test case. Yeah, she is now president of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. And of course, there will have to be issues with the government. And then we'll put her to the test. And if she does not act, I, Alfred Commander, but that's public relations officer, people have known me. I have a name, I have a reputation. I will go for people. If you do the wrong thing, we'll call you out.
All right, we're rounding up. I mean, we're over time now.
Julian is not happy.
We're rounding up, gentlemen. Anu, I'm going to start off with you, Anu. As we project into the new week, what would be our expectations around the Sierra Leone Bar Association and the issues around the Sierra Leone Bar Association this week?
I think I've summarized very well. There's expectation on both sides. The expectations of citizens you heard from the text messages is very low. It's dismal. So when I'm talking about 36% of citizens' approval of the bar, this was in 2022.
Oh.
If you collect that data now, it will be dismal.
Yeah.
So I think it behoves all of you. And there was someone who said, my child will not study law. I think it's profound. You may see that to be mere words, but it's coming from the guts of that texter. So I think it's good. It behoves both sides to acknowledge that there are problems on both sides. There are problems with the electioneering process, the way it was conducted. I think beyond, I think this is more for Edwina Swago than who else than Tuma Jabi, because it's Edwina's regime that actually conducted. So the call that we'll be making is actually for Edwina to fix things right.
Yeah.
So that's one. I think for there should be some reflection on your part in terms of understanding what is wrong. There are people on the other side that will not just take kindly to some other leadership that is being proposed because of the different persuasions. The fact that on Friday night, the fact that we have one camp doing chilling in Bo and another camp doing chilling in Kenema, I think that's, when I saw that, so no, I said this country is split down the middle.
Yeah.
And I saw someone who came to me, I went to chapter 1 that night, and then this guy was saying, I'm going to vote for a candidate that I don't like. It has now come to voting for my party. That's really bad. So in fact, when you're talking about Tuma and Ben, moving from the Lunge airport, I actually traveled. I met Tuma in Nairobi. We traveled in the same flight, and we met Ben in Accra. Tuma, Accra, Ben boarded, and then they came. So that was how the flight. I only saw. So the reality, I think what has set in is a big suspicion.
Great so.
Yeah. So it's okay for Wara and Ben Kefala to dance. It's okay for for you and this man, it's okay for you to interact. And that's why I always go back to Kaplan. Kaplan said the problem we have is the absence of the bourgeois class. We expect lawyers to be elite, to say, I am in SLPP, you are in APC, but let's agree on how we promote the country together. And that's what not what I'm seeing. It's not. So what's happened at the bar is just a microcosm of the wider problem. The wider problem is for Sierra Leone elites. All of us, I'm not taking myself out, for us to agree that we may have our differences, but when it comes to moving the country forward, we converge. And I think that makes the difference between Sierra Leone and many other countries. I don't know whether there's a book that has just been published, I think it's a couple of years ago, titled Elite Bargaining. That is how elites can bargain to agree on how to move forward. I think you need to bargain. In the interest of the bar, you actually need to bargain and move forward.
Bargain and move forward, gentlemen. Time is not our best ally. Therefore, I want to give you 30 seconds or a minute each as we round up and say good night for today. Let me start with Alfred, and I'll take you through that.
So I actually agree entirely with the very last submissions of Mr. Lavalley. This is actually time for us as members of the Sierra Leone Bar Association to come together and reflect. Of course, I've told you that we followed the law to the letter. The law was followed, systems and processes were followed, and we are challenging Julian and others to actually follow the actual legitimate process if they want to challenge the outcome of the results. However, we are calling on them to know that there is only one Sierra Leone Bar Association, and that the association that we are all pushing to see that it actually succeeds in this country, holds leaders to account, ensures that the interest, the welfare of members is a priority. So I am calling on Julian and the rest of the team members to join us in actually going back and then ensuring there are major reforms that we should take as a body so that our institution will be the potent institution once more.
All right, Alfred. Thank you. Julian, your final bite as we round up.
It's okay for Francis Ben Kaifala and Warasei Kamal to walk on the board bridge and come to Freetown. It's okay for Francis Ben Kaifala and Tuma Jabi to walk on a board bridge and come to Freetown. What is not okay is when their team, the Tuma Jabi team, posted that video and wrote underneath, then don't come for done this game. That is what is not okay. So let's be very clear. That is what is not okay.
That's
right?
that's propaganda. There's no way you would tell that it came from.
Oh no, it came. We have.
It could have come from. I mean.
Oh no, we have the evidence.
I think.
Oh no, we have the
I
evidence.
think it was posted on the blog.
A member, no.
I think
a member of Tuma Jabi's team. A member of Tuma Jabi's team posted it on eBay.
So again,
the biggest electronic
Julia, not
bar.
everything you see on
No,
social
just a
media
second. No, just a second. A member of Tuma Jabi's team posted it on eBay, the biggest electronic, the WhatsApp group of lawyers, saying, then don't come for done this game. A member, an integral member of Tuma Jabi's camp posted it. That is what is wrong. It is not their comment. It is not that that's it. It is what that description said. Then don't come for done this game. A member of Tuma Jabi's team. Right. So now let me say this. Alfred Kamanda is not public relations officer of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. Tuma Adama Jabi is not president of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. The rest of what she calls a team of executive, those people are not members of the Sierra Leone Bar Association executive. They are not.
Okay.
They are not. They were not elected. They were not in any shape or form approved as executive members of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. Let me say this clearly, that there were protests, and of course, people had the right to protest. There were protests, there were counter-protests. So for example, when some people were shouting, we know the vote, others were shouting, we the vote. Alfred Kamara said that on Epic Radio. That was protest. We were protesting that we the vote. So other people protested.
All right, Julian,
so there
I
were
think
protests, there were counter-protests. So let us make it very clear. Now lastly,
we've gone way over time.
the chairman of the General Legal Council went, took the mic, wanted to instill decorum in that meeting. Francis Ben Kaifala grabbed the mic away from him and continued his enterprise of stealing the elections for Tuma Gento.
Wow, Julian is still, latching on.
Very angry.
It's.
No, I'm just laying things bare.
Alfred, please, if you do that,
Sorry.
you get Julian.
I'm just laying things bare.
But again, this is going to be a conversation that will not end until there is a statement from the Silent Bar Association indicating that they are one by one voice, speaking and protecting the interest and welfare of members of the Bar Association. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Julian, for coming. Thank you, Andrew Lavalley from IGR. Thank you, Alfred, from the Bar Association Executive. It's being AYB on Sunday. Now, we'll be back again next Sunday for another edition. I want to say many thanks to our team for putting this together. Thank you very much to our viewers who have sent in their comment. A repeat of this program comes up on Thursday at 10 p.m. Be sure to catch a fresh edition of this program next week.